Hello everyone. So I put my Shorty E S&S carburetor back on yesterday and made all the adjustments, tuned it up, and the bike sounded great. No popping, no reversion back through the carburetor throat, and it just ran so beautifully. So this is not the carburetor I want on here. The Mikuni HSR42 should be a lot more economical to ride with, but it's just not tuning up. Now I'm sure that maybe there's a little bit of dirt in a jet or something. I don't really know. So if you look down here, you can see where the jet needle is. So just up above that pivot rod there, you can see, can't really focus, but there's a little C-shaped clamp, and then right in front of that is the jet needle. So I'm going to remove that. There is a little without taking this off, the screw out, I believe I can. There aren't hardly any videos on YouTube about how to remove that, but there's an Allen screw right there below that pivot rod that you see right there. Anyway, I can remove that. I think it's 2 or 3 mil. It's not a standard. It's not like an eighth or a quarter. It's not a standard. It's a metric. So I'm going to remove that. Turn this upside down. Drop that needle jet out, or jet needle, whichever. And see, I'm sure it's in the middle position. This is a 1600cc 96 cubic inch engine, and I've got a distinct feeling that the middle position is not where I need to be. I'm thinking that I need to lower that C clip down, or the E clip down, and put it in the 4th position, raising the needle off the seat a little bit for idle. There's a pilot jet obviously on the bottom here. I'm going to take that out. I believe it's a 25 in there now. I may go with a 30. And then I'll have to reinstall this and see if that solves the issue. So what is the issue exactly? Well, it's this. With this carburetor on, the bike just doesn't run smooth. Like I said, it pops out the exhaust, blows fire out of the throat of the carburetor, and it's just not doing what I want. But I love the carburetor because of the breather setup. So this is the breather I'm using with it, and I really like the way this breather looks on the bike. So it comes out here like this. With the Mikuni, it sits out about like that, and I like that a whole lot better than the teardrop. I like the teardrop at first, but then after putting the Mikuni on and then putting this air breather on, it also is the Mikuni air breather, as you can see. Anyway, it sits on here like this, and then you clamp it on. Everything's so hard to do with the phone in your hand, but anyway, it's like this. So I like the way it looks a whole lot better, and I do want some better economy. I do like the slide gate. Another issue I'm having with the S&S Shorty E is that I cannot get this idle down below about 1200. I've done everything I can, and there's just very, very tiny little opening at the butterfly, and any more closure on that and I'm sure it'll stall out. But so it's just not going to idle down to 1,000, much less, 950. But 1,000 is actually optimal, and I'm just not getting that. So it's actually running around anywhere from 1,100 to 1,250, and I'm basing that strictly on sound. So idle screws all the way backed out. Air mixture right now is very good at that idle. The accelerator screw right here I have set very well, very responsive. I don't know what else as far as what to do on getting this idle down. So what I need to do is get this bike inspected. So I'm going to use this carburetor, put this air breather on, and then I'm going to run it down next week. I'm going to run it down to a shop and they will inspect it, and then I can get the bike registered, get tags, license plate, and such. So then once I get that done, then I may go back and I'm going to go through this carburetor. I'm going to take the bottom off, get down to the main, to the pilot jet and the main jet. Make sure they're clean. Make sure everything in this is clean. It was brand new when I put it on. But one thing I did learn, and it may have had something to do with if I do get have a little bit of carbon in one of the jets, is that when you're putting your fuel hoses on here, definitely use a new fuel hose. I think I may have used an old one. I can't remember. So what happens is when you set this filter this close to the tank, then it allows for the fuel from the tank to be cleaned, but it doesn't clean the fuel from the hoses. So I think I may have had an old hose, and it washed a bunch of carbon after the filter through the hose into the bowl, and maybe one of my jets picked up, in the Mikuni, picked up a little bit of carbon, and that may have been the problem. So I just don't know until I take the jets out of the Mikuni and see if they're all nice and clean, blow it out with some carb cleaner, and go back with it. One more thing that I did notice, and I think what I'll do in the future is I'll put the fuel filter closer to the carburetor, and that way I'm filtering as much out of the tank and the hoses as possible. Another thing is, I do not believe my gas cap vents like it's supposed to vent, and I think that might have been causing me some issue with the Mikuni carburetor, because with the Mikuni it got to the point where I couldn't, after riding it up and down the street a while, as you can see in my last video, it was popping, and then when it got in the driveway, it's basically stalled out. Hang on, my dog's going crazy. Opie, stop it. And then got in the driveway and stalled out on me. And then I was having a really difficult time after starting it later to even keep the bike running. And I hadn't adjusted a whole lot on the carburetor, and I knew that it was running before, obviously. And then it just would not even keep up an idle. And so I did notice, after taking the Mikuni carburetor off and putting the shorty on, I could not get the bowl to fill with fuel until I released the vent. I released the cap, and that allowed atmospheric pressure to press on the gas and actually allowed fuel to flow down to the bowl. I knew that I couldn't get it to the bowl because when I was testing the accelerator pump after installing this carburetor, tested the accelerator pump, and I could not get fuel to pump into the throat. And I thought, okay, there's definitely a problem. Somewhere there's a problem. So I remembered that, hey, there's fuel in my filter. Obviously the valve was open. So I released the gas cap, and fuel just flowed right into the bowl. And then I got accelerator pump squirting through that through my accelerator jet back there behind the main jet there, as you can see. And then I ran the bike, and man, it just ran great. So I've got to, I really need to put the Mikuni car back on after cleaning it, going through it, put it back on, make sure I've got gas, basically gas tank vented, and then figure out what it is about this gas cap that is not. It's an old cap, but I just don't believe that it's allowing air to get into the tank to keep the tank at atmospheric pressure. So I'm not really sure. I've got to do a little bit of investigating on that. So anyway, and I can suck on this this vent here, and I can pull air through. So I don't really get what the issue is, but I do know that whenever I release this cap after the bike's been running, I do hear air not escaping from the tank, but it feels like when I release it that it pulls air into the tank. And that may be why the Mikuni was not running correctly. I was trying to accelerate the Mikuni, and it would try to stall out. So I just think I might have been getting a little bit of fuel dripping into the bowl and not getting enough. So anyway, I'm going to get the bike inspected with this carburetor on so that it runs right, and then take it and get license plates and registration, bring it back, put the Mikuni on, and see if I can tune the darn thing up. Alright, thanks for watching, guys. Bye.